Welcome to the Nutrition Mission Podcast.
This is where we're going to share information about nutrition and have insights into your own personal needs, as well as product information, as well as other information. You've got to be part of this nutrition mission.
This is the official Clark's Nutrition and Natural Foods Market podcast. And we've been helping people live better lives since 1972. We're on a nutrition mission. Join us.
Hi, this is Starkie Sowers. Welcome again to another Nutrition Mission podcast with Clark's Nutrition and Natural Foods Market. Man, are you crazy? Every time I turn around, it seems like we're getting another bash of sickness coming through the door. And so, literally in our stores, immune products are flying off the shelf. And they're literally you walk in, an hour later you go by and the sections are empty. And people have literally found the health food stores for a reason. Specifically, a lot of nutrients that are lacking in foods, ultimately that are might be one of the hidden links, so to speak, on keeping that immune system healthy and helping you prevent you from getting sick and some of the sicknesses that are going around. So I want to talk today about the immune system. I want to talk about what it is, how it works, how it functions, things of that nature. I think it's critical for us to understand that there's a lot of components that work together in the immune system, all right? So first of all, I want to talk about what we call kind of the hidden immunity or the first line of defense when it comes to the immune system. Believe it or not, it's really simple. You might think, what do you mean it's really simple? It's your skin. It's your digestive system. It's your lungs. It's the outside portion of your body that actually resists specific types of bacteria. So I'm sitting here on a tabletop, right? And so I don't know if they wiped it down with any type of, antiviral thing or whatever the case might be, or antibacterial. But bacteria grows on surfaces. E. coli grows on countertops like crazy. So if I just run my finger across here, bring it across and lick it, I've just eaten just thousands of different types of E. coli, right? And so what happens is we live in a bacteria world. In fact, if you think about the body has roughly about 1 trillion cells. It has roughly about 3 trillion bacteria that literally live on it or around it, okay? And some of that bacteria is good bacteria, some of it's bad bacteria. And so ultimately our immune system is designed to actually prevent these invaders from winning the war and getting inside our body, all right? So at the same time, we know we're going to lose the war, and there's going to be invaders that actually make their way into the body to be able to do damage. And so what that means is this. It means it's going to put us in a situation where we've got to be virulent or ready or able to be able to fight off whatever's brought our way, especially late with a lot of the different sicknesses that have been rolling around, like the COVIDs and things of that nature. A healthy immune system is probably one of the primary things that you can do to prevent yourself from getting sick, right? All right, so like I said, the first portion of our immune system is literally our outside armor. So it's our skin, it's literally our nails, it's like our toenails, it's all our ears, our ear wax, and all these different substances that we have actually prevents different types of viruses and bacteria from getting in. The Chinese actually call certain formulas that they have wind's gate. What does it mean to be the wind's gate? Well, wherever the wind or the air gets into the body, that's the gate. You want to protect that particular area. So that means the nose, that means the eyes, that means the mouth, that means the ears. And you can imagine the other orifices. I'll let you go from there. All right, so that said, ultimately what happens is how does the immune system do it? So if we get past that skin, how does our body do it? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just give you just a little picture, just so you kind of have an idea on what the body uses or how it works for the immunity. So first, you can't talk about the immune system without a healthy bone marrow. Bone marrow is actually where we produce all of our red and our white blood cells. Our white blood cells is our immune system. It's what helps fight the infections and invaders that pass off and prevent us from actually mounting up like disease situations, right? So ultimately in this situation, the bone marrow becomes critical. So years ago, the Chinese said for a healthy immune system, what you want to do is eat bone broth on a regular basis. And we just literally went through a bone broth craze for like the last 15 or 20 years. Josh Axe and all these guys were talking about eating bone broth soup. It seems like now you can find a pho place like on every corner. A lot of these places make healthy bone broth. Some of them do, some of them don't. But ultimately, bone broth is actually great nutrition for your immune system because it delivers the nutrients that the bones need to be able to build a healthy blood system. All right. So then what happens with this particular cells that leave the bone marrow, they're called stem cells. You've probably heard about that before, and you heard about like all the research and things that are going on. When you have healthy stem cells, the immune system is operating in a very good spot. So let's talk about some of these stem cells and what they do. So for the most part, the bone marrow makes these stem cells and they kind of go out into different neighborhoods and they take up residence. It's kind of like if you have kids and they grow up and they have kids and everyone moves in a different spot. They go into a different neighborhood, but they still have the same last name, whether it's John or whatever the case might be, that's the same last name, right? So ultimately what happens is this: these stem cells start as stem cells. If they literally migrate and head out into the lymphatic system, they become B cells typically, and they'll take up residence in the lymphatic system. So let's talk a little bit about the lymphatic system. The lymphatic system is kind of the garbage cleaner or the garbage disposal system in the body. It has a couple unique factors. It actually carries nutrients with it as well, but it literally works its way in the interwoven, cumbersome area between the cells. And it has like a little bit of a gate system. So when we think of the vascular system, with the exception of the capillaries, which lets gases in and out, nutrients in and out, most of the vascular system is very tight. It doesn't let anything out or in. So when it comes to the lymphatic system, it's literally 2 to 3 times the length of the cardiovascular system, but it has little trap doors which allows water to come in. So what it does is it cleans what we call the interstitial fluids, or the areas between the cells, and it cleans the toxins and the things that are left over after metabolism, and it actually carries it throughout the body, and it carries it up in what we call the thoracic area, which is up by the clavicle areas, up in the collarbone, and ultimately it dumps it into the bloodstream so it can make its way into the kidney and the liver and ultimately get rid of the toxins and things that the body actually has used for metabolism. At the same time, it has actually trap doors. And these trap doors along the way are basically filters, and what we call like lymphatic glands. And what they do, a lot of times when you get sick, you have a swelling that occurs in these lymphatic glands, and it's actually trapped impurities. It's either trapped some type of bacteria or some fungus or whatever the case might be, and it's basically starting a chemical warfare. So as I said, those B cells those stem cells that end up in the lymphatic system become specialized B cells, and they might fight these things like one-to-one, like where they just come in contact with them and release some cytotoxins or things of that nature. The other thing it actually does, and we'll talk about this later, is it can actually produce T cells. So we'll look at that a little bit different. But let's not get away from that lymphatic system yet. So the way I like to describe the lymphatic system is like this. Let's say you're going to make a meal. So you go to the grocery store, you buy a bunch of stuff, you come home, you just throw it on the table, and you basically chop it up, and you like, let's say, I don't know, you're going to make a salad, and let's say you're going to do like some steamed broccoli, and then you're going to do like maybe some like baked yams or something like that. You guys are starting to hear my message here, right? All right, so then ultimately when you're done, let's say you did some grass-fed beef. Sounds good. We're going to have some grass-fed beef and make some grass-fed beef hamburgers or whatever the case might be. And then when we're done, we're just going to take and we're just throw all the scraps in the corner, all right? We're not going to take the trash out. We're not going to do anything. We're just going to take the scraps. We're going to literally throw them in the corner and just go, okay, cool, I'm done. Go to sleep, and then just do that for like 3 or 4 nights, and what happens? Dude, you're going to end up in maggot land. Right? It's like garbage disposal. Dude, why didn't you take the trash out, right? So ultimately what happens is the trash has got to be taken out, especially those food particles are going to breed bacteria. You're going to get fruit flies. You're going to get all this crazy stuff, right? So the way I want you to think of your lymphatic system, I want you to think of it the same way. It's what takes the garbage out. So you say, okay, well, cool. It's 2 to 3 times the length of the vascular system. It's got this fluid that moves through it. So ultimately collects up the garbage and the waste and things of that nature. It also has nutrients with it too. And it kind of has to work with both these things at the same time. It's like it's taking trash out, bringing food in, taking trash out, bringing food in. All right. So ultimately what happens is this: it doesn't have a way to circulate except one way. So what do you mean by that? So remember, your vascular system has a heart and it pumps the blood around. In fact, literally in 20 seconds, almost all your blood is made a complete UE all around your body. It's like, boom, literally pumped out hundreds of gallons in a day, all day long, like by the liters or gallons, whatever you want to look at. It's just like crazy, right? So the lymphatic system has a pump, It's not the heart, but it is this. It is muscular contraction. If you're not moving your body, if you're not moving your body on a regular basis, you're not emptying your body's garbage system. And literally what happens is you literally got toxins and impurities, things like that piling up because you're not detoxing and moving it through. One of the best ways to detox your body is actually go on a 15-minute walk. It's amazing what it'll do on a regular basis. So I'm going to challenge you with that. All right. So that's the lymphatic system. Specifically, another little portion of what they call the lymphatic system are two things. One's called the thymus, one's called the spleen. So let's go back to that bone marrow. The bone marrow produces stem cells, goes up to the thymus, produces T cells. So these T cells, ultimately what they become is they become what we call a cell-to-cell system. So what they do is they kind of float around the body specifically. And what they do specifically is they look for different things. They look for cells that have gone funky, like cancer or funky cells. They'll kill them directly. Those are the killer cells. The other thing they do is maybe help those B cells that are in the lymphatic system, help produce different types of compounds to fight off different types of substances, things of that nature, okay? All right, so now let's talk about another one. Remember, our digestive system is part of our immune system. Hydrochloric acid is produced by the stomach, kills 90% of the bacteria that is in food. So what happens if some bacteria absolutely slips through? Some of these stem cells go to the liver. In the liver, they become Kupffer cells. And so any type of bacteria that comes up from the digestive system, these things are ready to tear it apart and just get rid of it. So you've got these stem cells producing everywhere. The other thing is the spleen gets some of these, and they produce different types of substances as well. And one of the things they'll do is produce different types of B cells. It's a big, long story, right? It's crazy all the different things that are going on, that are operating, that are working to help you keep from getting infected. So what happens if you do get infected? The body's defense system is needed in order to be able to fight this off, mount up some new immune cells, and make things work, right? So you're kind of getting the picture. This thing's kind of tricky. You've got a lymphatic system. You've got a bone marrow. You've got specifically different types of stem cells that go up and take a neighborhood in multiple areas. Let's talk about some things that literally kill the immune cells, that literally make those things almost ineffective. All right, check it out. Let's say you sit down and you just go like this. Okay, I'm going to drink a Pepsi. So I hammer backside of Pepsi, hit it in, or get a bunch of sugar stuff in me. And literally, this can be orange juice. So a lot of times people get sick and they go, oh, I'll just drink a gallon of orange juice. Not so, Batman. You might want to rethink this thought, all right? So here's the deal. All right, so one of the things that happens is too much sugar paralyzes the white blood cells for 8 hours. What are the white blood cells? Those are the B cells. Those are the T cells. They don't work. So too much sugar when you're sick, I don't care whether it's orange juice or whatever the case might be, not a good thing. So that's the reason why they'll tell you clear liquids, not too much sugar, things of that nature. Very critical to be in that moment. So you want to avoid sugar. So a lot of through these episodes, I keep saying, hey, when it comes to healthy living, you got to get rid of the sugar. So here we see a direct impact on the lymphatic system and on the immune system by having too much sugar in the system. All right. So now let's talk about antioxidants. Antioxidants are necessary for building these white blood cells or these stem cells. So let's talk about specifically vitamin C, absolutely critical for building these things. Vitamin C is paramount. Vitamin C helps with the construction of these white blood cells, the stem cells, these T cells, these B cells. Inadequate amount of vitamin C, and guess what happens? Your body just can't produce it. Another thing that happens with vitamin C is this. If you have a cell that gets infected by a virus, and actually that cell itself will actually make what is known as an antiviral protein if it has adequate amounts of vitamin C in the system to do so. All right. If it doesn't, guess what? That virus gets to run rampant. So what we're finding is some unique things about this, and we'll talk about this in a minute. So let's talk about a couple other key nutrients. Let's talk about vitamin D. Vitamin D is absolutely essential. One thing that happens with vitamin D is this. When it comes to vitamin D is not only necessary for the optimal function of those T cells, it also helps with the sensitivity so they don't attack self. So you're not actually in an autoimmune situation. So that becomes very critical as well too. So vitamin D literally is the paramount nutrient nowadays that people are focusing on when it comes to actual different types of sicknesses. What do we know about vitamin D in the real world? Here's what we know is this. When it comes to COVID, vitamin D, the actual amount of levels of vitamin D in the bloodstream on a given situation actually reduces susceptibility for giving it. At the same time, actually reduces the symptoms. At the same time, it reduces the morbidity or the motility issues on these cells. And what it does is it actually prevents you from having complexities that would actually end up, in bad situations. Vitamin D becomes a very critical nutrient when it comes to the immune system. We always thought it was all about the bones. We always thought it was about the calcium, things of that nature. About in the 90s, we started seeing these critical aspects. In fact, I would say right now it's one of the paramount nutrients that you want to get. Where do you get it? You get it from cod liver oil. Check it out. Most people don't eat cod liver oil. Where else are you going to get it? Liver. Check it out. Most people don't eat liver. Where else are you going to get it? People say, oh, I get it from sunshine. We got to be outside for a good period of time. What do people do nowadays? They literally take sunscreen and they put it all over themselves. And guess what? You're not going to make any vitamin D if you got sunscreen on the outside. Not going to happen. So what does it mean? It means you're probably going to have to supplement like the rest of us. Make sure that you're getting in an adequate amount. Probably 1,000 to 2,000 IUs a day is a decent amount. Taking a multivitamin, if you're using a multivitamin, which I think is critical, I think that's one of the paramounts of nutrition. It's going to have vitamin C in it. It's going to have zinc. We'll talk about zinc in a moment. The other thing is vitamin D, so you might want to make sure that you're not getting over 4,000 IUs a day on a regular basis. I know there's a lot of people saying, oh, you should take 20, 30, things of that nature. Ultimately, I think 4,000 is the upper threshold sweet spot. You can get too much. It is fat soluble. Be careful. All right, so then let's talk about zinc. So lots of research in the 70s. A couple different researchers, virologists noticed this. Hey, using zinc actually lessens the duration of colds and basically reduces the symptoms significantly. So the way you got to do this, though, is you got to chew this stuff up and hold it on top of your tongue and have non-depleted amounts of zinc in the system, which means that you got to take a multivitamin or get some zinc in, or you're eating oysters, or you're eating meat, or you're eating pumpkin seeds, or different things of that nature, and you're getting adequate amount in. So one of the questions was zinc, was it effective actually in situations of COVID, right? And so we actually started seeing some data coming in. So we started looking at that data, and it took years for this to develop. When we started looking at some of this data, we actually find that actually people that were zinc deficient, that were not taking supplemental zinc, actually had 7 times more increased susceptibility to like radical outcomes from sicknesses like COVID. So what does that mean? It means you want to make sure that your system's got adequate amounts of zinc in it. So let's talk about antioxidants. Vitamin C, we've been talking about. Other thing to remember is this: there's phytonutrients or phytoantioxidants. Where do you get those? You get them from plants. You get them from colors. So when it comes to fruits and vegetables and things of that nature, all those things that have color, those are antioxidants. They're going to make that system work that much better, make the antioxidant system that more important. Let's get rid of the sugar. It paralyzes the immune system. Critical to get rid of the sugar. And here's the deal: lots of water. Hydrate like crazy. Get the system moving through. Ultimately, putting us in this situation where we're going to end up having the good nutrients and things that we need in order to get into it. Finally, let's move the body. Moving the body makes sense. It empties the garbage can. It puts us in a situation where our inside bloodstream is a lot healthier. All right, so hopefully it give you a little ammunition, kind of get you up and running. Crazy times, I know. Mind you, at the same time, there is not a cure for COVID. It doesn't exist. These nutrients will help you with the battle. They're not going to cure the situation. Anyone that tells you there's a cure online, run away from that like the plague. It doesn't exist. I'm telling you right now. All right, that said, thanks again for listening to another podcast, Nutrition Mission with Clark's Nutrition and Natural Foods Market.
Thank you guys for joining us today on our Mission Nutrition podcast, the official Clark's Nutrition and Natural Foods Market podcast. We've got another exciting episode for you next week, so be sure to review, subscribe, follow us, and stay connected.
Absolutely, be part of it. We've got so much we're going to share with you. It's going to be an amazing ride.
We'll see you next time.